Good day, my dear student. I hope you're ready as I am for today's lesson. Welcome to Science 4, where learning becomes easy once we explore. So let's go, for we will answer your what, why, and how question. Let us discover the beauty of the world together. For the great man like you, learning never stops. Let me take you where imagination will allow you to grow. This is your science teacher, Teacher Mark Lu. For today's lesson, we will once again explore and examine some of materials that can be found in our environment and discover another set of special properties of matter. Remember, please prepare your self-learning modules, paper, and pen. These things are important for we will using them as we continue discover everything about matter. In today's lesson, we will classify materials according to their ability to float and sink in the water. Have you tried swimming in the sea or in a lake with your family? How was your experience? Did you make sure that you're safe from drowning while enjoying swimming? Aside knowing how to swim, what materials did you use to make sure that you're safe from drowning? Swimming is an enjoyable leisure, hobby, and sports, but we also make sure that we are safe from drowning every time we go to swim. For safety purposes, people use floaters commonly called salbabida in Tagalog, whether they swim in the lake and the river. What properties do floaters have? They have the ability to float. What about those materials like big stones and don't float on the water? What special properties do they have? They have the ability to sink. The materials around us have abilities. But before we move on to the lesson today, let us first recall yesterday's lessons on a special property of matter, which is the ability to absorb water. Now, who can recall what is porosity? Yes. So yesterday, we have ventured one of special properties of matter, which is ability to absorb liquid. You have learned that this property is called porosity, and that cloth, tissue, sponges are some of the materials that can absorb liquid because of lot of pores and holes between the loose fibers made of this material. Again, what material that have holes and can absorb water? They are called porous material. What about those material that don't have pores and cannot absorb liquid? What do you call them? They are called non-porous materials, like materials that are made in plastics. In this lesson, you will learn more about matter by discovering more special properties of different material. You will learn also how to classify materials based on the ability to float or sink in the water. Just like floaters, which are used for safety when swimming, there are also materials that have ability to float. Float means to stay on top. Here are examples of materials. There are also materials like a big stones, a metal, which sink. Sink means to fall down to the bottom of the water. Trivia: the word float and sink in the English language are antonyms. When you say antonyms, these words have opposite meanings. This time, let us examine the pictures and classify them if they float or sink in the water. If you place this material on water, which material will have ability to float or to sink in the water? Will the noodle cup float once we place it in the water? Yes, it will float. The noodle cup will stay on top or stay on the water surface. Will the bamboo balsa usually float once it's lake? Yes, it will float. Bamboo balsa are made to float at lake for transportation, for local fishing, and also for transport goods. Will the metal bell float once we place it in the water? No, the metal bell will sink. The metal bell will fall into the bottom of the water. If you got all the correct answer, then you deserve an angel clap. An angel clap will do in this manner. Angel clap. Flip your wings 4 times, then clap 3 times. Again, 4 times, 3 times. Let's do it. 4 times, 3 times. 4 times, 3 times. Do you like the clap? I like it too. Now let's proceed. Some materials float on water like a noodle cup and ship. When we say float, the material stays on top, on the surface of the water. Some materials sink, like the metal bar or the stones. We say sink materials stays on the bottom of the bottle. In Science 4, there's always a time to explore. So make sure you're ready because it's activity time! Young scientists, this is the time we will exploring different materials and classifying where they have ability to float or to sink in the water. Prepare your pen and paper for this activity. We will be using this material, namely a small basin that is 3/4 full of water, an empty plastic bottle with a cover, a feather, 2 large stones, a rubber ball, a metal spoon, and a disposable gloves. I will be soaking each of this material on classifying whether the material has the ability to float or to sink on the water. Are you ready, kids? Thumbs up if you are ready. Great! Our first material is an empty plastic bottle with a cover. If you have answer float, then you're correct. An empty plastic bottle with a cover stays on top of the water or at the water surface. Our second material is A feather. If you have answered float, then you're correct. A feather stays on the top of the water. Our third material are large stone. Two large stones. Be careful. If you have answered sink, you are correct. A large stone falls into the bottom of the water. Now let's move on to the fourth material. Our fourth material is a rubber ball. If you have answered float, you are correct. A rubber ball stays on the top of the water or at the water surface. Our fifth material is a metal spoon. If you have answered sink, you are correct. A metal spoon falls into the bottom of the water. If you got a correct answer out of 5, then you deserve a rain clap. The rain clap will do in this manner. From top to bottom. Okay? Top to bottom. Top to bottom. Top to bottom. Okay, you will do it in 5 times. Are you ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you like it? I like it too. Sink means to fall to the bottom of the water, while float means to stay on top. Some materials float on top of the water, some materials stay submerged partway down, and some materials sink very, very fast. Some materials sink very slow. An object shape can affect its ability to float, but some materials float no matter what shape, are such as balsa wood and styrofoam. Something float at first but then sink as they absorb water or they water into holes. But why those materials sink while other materials float? Yes, the ability of materials to sink or to float in the water depends on the density. Density is the amount of mass of an object per volume. Water has a density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter. If the density of an object is higher than the density of water, that object will sink in the water. Example, the metal. But if the density of the object is less than the density of water, the object will float in the water. Different material have a different densities. For example, gold will sink in the water because its density of 19.3 gram per cubic centimeter is higher than the density of water, which is 1 gram per cubic centimeter. Different materials have different properties. Some materials float. Float means to stay on top of the water. There are other materials that tend to stay on top or on the water surface when you place them on the water. Some materials stay submerged partway down. There are also materials which sink. Sink means to fall into the bottom of the water. The ability of materials to sink or to float in the water depends on their density. Density is the amount of mass of an object per volume. A water has density of 1 gram per cubic centimeter. If the density of an object is higher than the density of water, the object will sink. But the density of an object is less than the density of the water, that object will float, sink. If you have classified all of these materials correctly, you deserve a last clap. The I learn clap. I learn clap will do in this manner. I learn, I learn, I learn. I learn, I learn, I learn. I learn, I learn, I learn. Do you like the clap? I like it too. That's all for today, young scientists. I hope you have fun in Science 4, where learning becomes easy once we explore. I hope you had an answer for your what, why, and how questions. For the great man of young scientists like you, learning never stops. Follow where your imagination allows you to go. This is your science teacher Mark Lu. Thank you for joining me in our short yet exciting science lesson. Watch out for another science lesson.